The flames were consuming the 47th Bible when Dr. Ahmed Khalil al-Rashid felt something he had never experienced in his 47 years of existence. His hand would not move, not frozen from cold, not paralyzed from fear. His hand simply refused to obey him, as if something far more powerful than his own will had taken control. And then he heard it. A voice. A voice that knew his name, but we are getting ahead of ourselves. Because to understand what happened in that hospital basement at exactly 11:47 p.m. on December 14th, 2019, you need to understand who Ahmed al-Rashid truly was. And more importantly, you need to understand who he had been running from for 28 years. Dr. Ahmed Khalil al-Rashid was not just any surgeon. He was the chief of cardiovascular surgery at Chicago Metropolitan Hospital, one of the most prestigious positions in American medicine, a man who had saved over 3,000 lives with his own two hands, a man who earned $800,000 a year, a man who drove a Mercedes S-Class and lived in a $2.5 million home in Lincoln Park. He was also a man with a scar on his left wrist that he never explained to anyone. Not to his wife Layla, not to his 3 children, not even to his father, Imam Abdullah al-Rashid, one of the most respected Islamic scholars in Saudi Arabia. That scar held a secret that had shaped every decision Ahmed had made since he was 19 years old. A secret connected to a girl named Fatima. But that secret would have to wait, because right now you need to understand something else about Dr. Ahmed al-Rashid. He hated Christians, not disliked, not disagreed with, hated, with every fiber of his being, with every breath he took, with every beat of the 3,000 hearts he had repaired over his career. Ahmed would later confess, "I did not see Christians as people, I saw them as a disease, a virus that infected Muslim minds and destroyed Muslim families. I believed that every Bible was a weapon designed to steal Muslim souls, and I had made it my life's mission to protect my people from that weapon. This hatred was not born from ignorance, it was born from loss. It was born from a 16-year-old girl with bright eyes and a laugh that could fill an entire room. It was born from his sister, Fatima." Ahmed grew up in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in a family that had produced Islamic scholars for 6 generations. His father was an imam. His grandfather was an imam. His great-grandfather had memorized the entire Quran by the age of 12. Religion was not just a part of their lives. Religion was their life. Ahmed was the eldest son, the heir, the one who would carry the family legacy into the next generation. But his younger sister, Fatima, she was different. She asked questions that made their father uncomfortable. Questions like, why did Allah create people just to send them to hell? Questions like, if Allah is merciful, why does He demand blood? Questions like, why are we not allowed to even read what Christians believe? Ahmed loved his sister more than he loved anyone else in the world. When neighborhood children mocked her for being too curious, Ahmed fought them. When teachers punished her for asking forbidden questions, Ahmed comforted her. When their father raised his hand against her, Ahmed stepped between them. Fatima once wrote in her diary, something Ahmed would not discover until years later. "My brother Ahmed is my shield. He does not understand my questions, but he protects my right to ask them. I pray that one day he will find the answers I am searching for." But in 1991, everything changed. Fatima was 16, Ahmed was 19, and a group of American missionaries had come to Riyadh. They called themselves humanitarian workers. They ran a clinic on the outskirts of the city, providing free medical care to anyone who needed it. The Saudi government tolerated their presence because they never openly discussed religion. But they had Bibles, hidden Bibles, in English, tucked away in a back room for anyone who asked. And somehow, Fatima found out. Ahmed would later piece together what happened from fragments, from whispers, from a diary he would not find for 14 years. Fatima had gone to the clinic for a minor injury, a cut on her hand that had become infected. While waiting, she had noticed a book with a cross on it. She had asked questions. The missionaries had answered. And over the next 3 months, in secret meetings that Ahmed knew nothing about, Fatima had read the entire New Testament. She wrote about it in her diary, a diary that Ahmed would not discover for 14 years. In 2005, when their mother died, Ahmed was tasked with going through her belongings. In a box buried in the back of her closet, hidden beneath old photographs and moth-eaten scarves, he found it. A small leather journal, Fatima's handwriting on the cover. Ahmed should have burned it. He should have thrown it away without reading a single word. That would have been consistent with everything he believed, but he did not. Instead, he sat on the floor of his dead mother's room and he read every single page. He read about Fatima's questions, her doubts, her journey. He read about how she felt when she first read the words of Jesus. He read about the peace that overwhelmed her, the love she could not explain, the certainty that she had found something true. And he read one passage that broke him. October 3rd, 1991. I wonder if Ahmed will ever understand. I wonder if he will ever feel what I feel. I do not hate him for not understanding. I do not hate anyone in my family. I love them more now than I ever did before. Jesus taught me how to love, truly love, without condition, without expectation. I pray for Ahmed every night. I ask Jesus to find him. I ask Jesus to show him the truth, not because I want to be right, but because I want him to have this peace, this joy. I believe Jesus will find him one day, he promised me. In a dream, he promised me. Ahmed, if you ever read this, know that I never stopped loving you. Know that I never stopped praying. And know that Jesus is waiting for you. He has been waiting your whole life. Your sister, Fatima Ahmed, had put the diary back in the box. He had closed the lid. He had told himself that Fatima had been brainwashed, that her words meant nothing. But he kept the diary. He brought it back to Chicago. He hid it in the bottom drawer of his desk, beneath files and paperwork and things no one would ever look through. And sometimes, late at night when he could not sleep, he would take it out and read that same passage over and over again. He told himself he was studying the enemy, but deep down he knew the truth. Some part of him, some tiny, buried, almost dead part of him, wanted what his sister had found. He just was not ready to admit it. What she found there, what she discovered in those pages, Ahmed would not understand until decades later. All he knew then was that his sister came home one evening with a look on her face that he had never seen before. She looked peaceful, terrifyingly peaceful. And then she told their father that she had accepted Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior. What happened next haunted Ahmed for the rest of his life. Imam Abdullah al-Rashid did not yell. He did not strike her. He simply looked at his daughter, his youngest child, the girl he had taught to read the Quran, and he spoke 5 words that destroyed their family forever. You are no longer my daughter. Fatima was given 1 hour to pack her belongings. 1 hour. Ahmed remembered standing in the doorway of her room, watching her fold clothes into a small bag with trembling hands. He remembered wanting to say something, wanting to stop this, wanting to protect her like he always had. But he did not move. He did not speak. He simply stood there while his shield, while his purpose, walked out of their home and out of his life. Ahmed, Fatima had whispered as she passed him, one day you will understand. Jesus is going to find you, little brother. He promised me. Those were the last words she ever spoke to him. 4 months later, Fatima was dead. A car accident, they said, on the outskirts of Riyadh. She had been living in a small apartment, working at a bakery, completely alone. No family, no friends from her old life. Just her faith and her Bible. When the police came to inform Imam Abdullah, he did not cry. He simply said, I have no daughter named Fatima. But Ahmed cried. Ahmed cried until his body could not produce any more tears. And then something inside him, something that had always believed in love and mercy and protection, that something died, and hatred was born in its place. In the months following Fatima's death, Ahmed became obsessed with one idea. Christians had killed his sister, not physically, but spiritually. They had poisoned her mind with their lies. They had stolen her from her family. They had taken a bright, curious, beautiful girl and turned her into an outcast who died alone on a desert road. And Ahmed swore on everything he held sacred that he would never let this happen to another Muslim family. He would protect his people. He would fight this disease called Christianity. He would burn every Bible he could find. The first Bible Ahmed tried to burn was in early 1992. He was 19 years old, grief-stricken, rage-filled. He had stolen a Bible from the same missionary clinic that had corrupted Fatima. He went to the desert outside Riyadh. He built a small fire. He held the Bible over the flames. And something unexpected happened. The book slipped from his hands. A burning page caught his wrist. The pain was searing, immediate, permanent. Ahmed kept that scar for the rest of his life. He told everyone it was an accident in a chemistry lab, but every time he looked at it, he remembered. He remembered Fatima. He remembered his failure to protect her. He remembered his promise. And he remembered that the first Bible he tried to destroy had marked him instead. Little did he know. That scar was just the beginning of a much longer story, a story that would take 28 years to complete, a story that would end in a hospital basement in Chicago. After the incident in the desert, Ahmed channeled his hatred into something productive. He became a doctor, not because he wanted to heal, but because he wanted power. He studied with obsessive intensity. He graduated top of his class from King Saud University. He won a scholarship to Johns Hopkins University in the United States. He specialized in cardiovascular surgery because it was the most difficult, the most prestigious, the most respected field in medicine. By the time he was 35, Ahmed was already a rising star. By 40, he was chief of cardiovascular surgery at Chicago Metropolitan Hospital. He had married Layla, a woman from a prominent Saudi family, and together they had 3 children. Karim, 22, Aisha, 19, Omar, 16. From the outside, Ahmed's life was perfect, but inside, the hatred never stopped burning. It just learned to hide. And there was something else, something Ahmed never told anyone. Dreams. Strange, recurring dreams that had haunted him for years. In these dreams, Ahmed was always standing in water. Clear, blue, peaceful water that rose to his chest. The water was warm, comforting, safe. And every time, just before he woke up, a voice would call his name from beneath the surface. Ahmed always woke from these dreams drenched in sweat, his heart racing, his mind filled with a peace he could not explain and did not want to feel. He never understood what these dreams meant. He would not understand for a very long time. But the water was waiting, waiting for the right moment, waiting for him to be ready. There was also a secret Ahmed carried, a secret heavier than any other. It happened in 2015, 4 years before the night in the basement, patient 714. That was what Ahmed called him in his own mind, not by name, never by name, because using his name would make him real, would make what happened real. Patient 714 was a 58-year-old man from the south side of Chicago. He had come to the hospital with a failing heart. He needed emergency surgery. Ahmed was the attending surgeon on call, but patient 714 had something that made Ahmed's blood boil, a cross around his neck, and a Bible on his nightstand. Ahmed remembered standing in the hallway outside the man's room, reading his chart and feeling something dark rise up inside him. The surgery was risky. The patient's chances were maybe 60% with immediate intervention, but if Ahmed waited, if he delayed just a few hours for additional tests that were not strictly necessary, the chances would drop significantly. And Ahmed made a choice. He ordered the additional tests. He told the nursing staff that he wanted to be thorough. He went home. He had dinner with his family. He slept for 6 hours. When he returned to the hospital the next morning, patient 714 was dead. Cardiac arrest at 3:47 a.m. The surgery had come too late. The medical board reviewed the case. They found no wrongdoing. The additional tests were within protocol. Ahmed had followed procedure, but Ahmed knew the truth. He had let a man die, not through action, through inaction, through hatred. The man's family came to the hospital the next day. His wife, his 2 adult children, his elderly mother. They wanted to thank the medical staff for trying to save him. They were not angry. They were grateful. And that gratitude, that undeserved, impossible gratitude, it broke something in Ahmed that he did not even know existed. He never forgot patient 714. He never told anyone what he had done. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw that cross. He saw that Bible on the nightstand. He saw a family that should have hated him, offering him grace instead. And somewhere, deep in the darkest corner of his soul, Ahmed knew that what he had done was wrong. He just was not ready to admit it. Not yet. Ahmed used his position at Chicago Metropolitan Hospital to fight a quiet war against Christianity. He advocated against the hospital chaplaincy program. He rejected job applications from openly Christian doctors when he could get away with it. He discouraged Muslim residents from interacting with Christian patients, and he formed a small group of like-minded Muslim doctors who shared his views. Dr. Hassan al-Farouk, cardiologist, 52 years old, Ahmed's best friend and closest ally. Dr. Omar Mahmoud, neurologist, 38, the most radical among them. Dr. Yusuf Ibrahim, plastic surgeon, 44, quiet, reserved, always watching. Dr. Tariq and Dr. Kareem, junior surgeons, young, impressionable, looking for guidance. They met every month for prayers and discussions, but there was tension in the group, tension that Ahmed had noticed but never addressed. It happened 3 years before the night in the basement. Ahmed had stayed late at the hospital to finish paperwork. It was nearly midnight. The hallways were empty. The only sounds were the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant beeping of monitors. As he walked past the hospital chapel, a small, non-denominational room that he despised, he heard something. Crying. Quiet, muffled crying. Ahmed stopped. Something made him look through the small window in the chapel door, and what he saw froze him in place. Dr. Hassan al-Farouk, his best friend, his closest ally, the man who shared his views on Christianity more than anyone else. Hassan was sitting in the front pew of that chapel. He was holding a Bible, and he was weeping. Ahmed watched for what felt like hours. In reality, it was probably only a minute or two. He saw Hassan turn the pages of that Bible. He saw him bow his head. He saw his lips moving in what could only be prayer. Ahmed never confronted Hassan about that night. He told himself it was nothing, a moment of weakness, a lapse in judgment. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. He knew that his best friend was hiding something, and on the night they burned the Bibles. When Hassan's face went pale, and he looked like he had not slept in days, Ahmed finally understood. Hassan had been fighting a war inside himself, a war between the man he pretended to be and the man his wife had been praying he would become. But Ahmed did not know any of this then. All he knew was that Hassan was nervous, and nervous men were dangerous. And in December of 2019, Ahmed proposed something he had been planning for months. The Christian volunteer group had left 47 Bibles in the hospital basement, 47 Bibles intended for patients, 47 weapons against Muslim souls. Ahmed wanted to destroy them all. But before we get to that night, there is something else you need to know, something about Dr. Hassan al-Farouk, something that Ahmed did not know, something that would only become clear much later. Hassan had a secret. His wife, Maria, was a Christian. She had been a Christian when he married her 20 years ago. She had remained a Christian through all their years together, and every single night. For 20 years she had prayed for her husband's salvation. Hassan had never told anyone, not even Ahmed, because in their world, such a secret could destroy everything. But Hassan's secret was not the only one hiding in that group of doctors. There was another, a secret even more dangerous, a secret that would change everything that happened on December 14th, 2019. But that secret would have to wait until the flames revealed the truth. The evening of December 14th began like any other. Ahmed finished his last surgery at 8 p.m., a triple bypass on a 63-year-old man. Successful, another life saved, another notch on his impressive record. But his mind was not on the surgery. His mind was on what would happen later that night. The other doctors had agreed to meet in the basement at 11 p.m. They would use the medical waste incinerator. No one would question them. No one would know. 47 Bibles would be reduced to ash, and Ahmed would finally feel like he was doing something, like he was fighting back, like Fatima's death meant something. As he scrubbed out of surgery, he caught his reflection in the mirror. For just a moment, just a fraction of a second, he thought he saw someone standing behind him, a girl, young, with bright eyes and a peaceful smile. When he turned around, no one was there. Ahmed shook his head. Exhaustion, that was all. Just exhaustion. He had no way of knowing that what he saw was just the first sign of what was coming. At 10:45 p.m., Ahmed made his way to the hospital basement. The corridor was cold, not just regular cold. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones and makes you feel like something is watching you. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows on the concrete walls. Ahmed had walked this corridor hundreds of times, but tonight it felt different. Tonight it felt like he was walking towards something that would change him forever. He pushed open the door to the storage room where the Bibles had been kept, and there they were, 47 Bibles stacked neatly on metal shelves, red covers, black covers, brown leather, some new, some worn, each one a weapon in Ahmed's mind, each one a threat to everything he believed. He picked up the first Bible. It felt heavier than it should have, and for reasons he could not explain, his eyes fell on a single verse that was highlighted in yellow on the open page, John 3:16, "For God so loved the world." Ahmed slammed the Bible shut. His hands were shaking. Why were his hands shaking? The other doctors arrived at exactly 11 p.m. Dr. Hassan was first. His face was pale. He looked like he had not slept in days, but he said nothing about it. Dr. Omar came next, eager, excited, almost gleeful at what they were about to do. Dr. Yusuf entered quietly. He stood in the corner, watching, his expression unreadable. Dr. Tariq and Dr. Kareem arrived together, young, nervous, following the lead of their mentors, 6 doctors, 47 Bibles, 1 incinerator, and a night that none of them would ever forget. Ahmed gave a short speech before they began. "My brothers," he said, his voice echoing in the concrete room, "tonight we perform an act of purification. These books have poisoned minds and destroyed families. They took my sister from me. They seek to take your children, your wives, your brothers and sisters in faith." The other doctors nodded, all except Dr. Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf just watched, his eyes fixed on Ahmed, his expression strange. Ahmed noticed it, a flicker of something in Yusuf's eyes. Was it doubt? Was it fear? Was it something else entirely? But there was no time to wonder. They had work to do. Ahmed opened the incinerator door. The flames inside roared to life, orange and red and yellow dancing like demons eager to consume. He picked up the first Bible. He felt the leather against his palm, and for just a moment, just a heartbeat, he felt the scar on his left wrist begin to burn. Not literally burn, but the memory of burning. The memory of that night in the desert 28 years ago. Ahmed ignored it. He threw the first Bible into the flames. The first Bible burned. So did the second, and the third, and the fourth. With each Bible that was consumed by fire, Ahmed felt something building inside him. Victory, vindication, justice for Fatima, proof that he was doing the right thing. By the 20th Bible, he was almost smiling. By the 30th, he felt invincible. By the 40th, something was wrong. Dr. Hassan noticed it first. "Wait," he said, his voice cutting through the roar of the incinerator. Something is not right." Ahmed looked at him. "What do you mean? Look at the flames." Ahmed turned back to the incinerator, and his blood ran cold. The 7 remaining Bibles were in the fire. He could see them clearly through the incinerator window. Flames completely surrounded them, orange and red and white hot, licking at the pages, consuming everything in their path. But the Bibles were not burning. The pages were not blackening. The leather was not melting. They sat in the center of the inferno, completely untouched, as if the fire did not exist. "That is impossible," Dr. Omar whispered. "That is physically impossible." Ahmed could not respond. He could not think. He could only stare at the 7 Bibles sitting peacefully in the middle of a fire that should have reduced them to ash in seconds. The temperature in that incinerator was over 1,000 degrees. Paper burns at 450. Nothing should survive. And yet. Dr. Karim backed toward the door. "I am leaving. This is wrong. Something is wrong." But before anyone could move, the incinerator door flew open on its own. And the flames did something that flames should never do. They stopped, not extinguished. Stopped, frozen in place, like someone had pressed pause on reality itself. What happened in the next 30 seconds would haunt every man in that room for the rest of his life. The 7 Bibles rose from the incinerator. They did not float. They did not fly. They simply rose, as if lifted by invisible hands. They moved slowly, deliberately, out of the frozen flames and into the room. And as they moved, light began to pour from their pages. Not fire. Light. Golden, pure, overwhelming light. Light that seemed to come from another dimension entirely. Light that carried warmth. Not the warmth of fire. The warmth of being held. The warmth of being seen. The warmth of being loved unconditionally by something far greater than human understanding could comprehend. And with the light came a smell. Not the smell of burning paper, not the smell of smoke. Myrrh, frankincense, the ancient scents that Ahmed remembered from his childhood. The scents his grandmother used during holy celebrations. The scents that had always made him feel safe. But how could those scents be here? In a hospital basement, in the middle of a fire. The temperature in the room had dropped at least 20 degrees. Ahmed could see his breath. He could feel the cold seeping into his bones, but the light was warm, as if 2 realities were existing in the same space. And there was sound too, or rather, the absence of sound. The incinerator had been roaring moments ago. The ventilation system had been humming. The fluorescent lights had been buzzing. Now, nothing. Absolute silence. The kind of silence that feels intentional. The kind of silence that precedes something earth-shattering. The kind of light that made every man in that room fall to his knees. Except Ahmed. Ahmed could not fall, because his hand had reached out toward one of the Bibles. And now his hand would not move. Dr. Tariq screamed and ran. Dr. Karim followed him. Dr. Omar tried to run but collapsed against the wall, covering his face. Dr. Hassan fell to his knees and began to weep. He was saying something over and over. The same words. His wife's name. Maria was right, Maria was right, Maria was right. Dr. Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf did something no one expected. He walked toward the light. He walked toward it with his arms open and tears streaming down his face. And he said words that shattered everything Ahmed thought he knew about his colleague. "I have been waiting for you. Lord, I have been waiting so long." But Ahmed barely registered any of this, because the light was focusing on him. The 7 Bibles were circling around him now, and one of them, one with a red leather cover, was moving closer than the others. Ahmed tried to pull his hand back. He could not. He tried to close his eyes. He could not. He tried to scream. No sound came out. And then he heard it. The voice. The voice he would never forget as long as he lived. A voice that was somehow both thunder and whisper. A voice that knew his name. A voice that knew everything. Ahmed. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Ahmed. "I have been calling you for 28 years. Ahmed's heart was pounding so hard he thought it would explode. "Your sister prayed for you. She prayed for you every day until the moment she died. She asked me to wait for you. She asked me to find you. In a hospital. Surrounded by fire." The room fell silent. Even the frozen flames seemed to hold their breath. And then Ahmed saw something that broke him completely, in the golden light pouring from the Bibles. He saw her. Fatima, his sister, standing right in front of him, smiling. The same peaceful smile she had worn the day she told their father about her faith, the same smile she wore in his dreams, the same smile he had spent 28 years trying to forget. "Little brother," Fatima said. Or the vision of Fatima said. Or whatever impossible thing was happening said. I told you Jesus would find you." Ahmed tried to speak. He tried to say her name. He tried to ask how this was possible, but only one word came out, a word he had not spoken in 28 years, a word that carried the weight of all his grief, all his rage, all his regret. Fatima. The vision smiled wider. "Read it, Ahmed. Read what you tried to burn. Read it and understand." And then she was gone. And Ahmed's frozen hand was holding one of the Bibles, the red one. The cover was warm against his palm, and as he looked down at it, his eyes fell on words that were highlighted in yellow, the same words he had slammed shut earlier that night. John 3:16. "For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." Ahmed read those words, and then he read them again, and then something broke inside him, something that had been locked away for 28 years, something that he had buried under hatred and success and religious duty and anger. His knees gave way, not because he chose to kneel. His body simply could not stand anymore, and for the first time since Fatima's funeral, for the first time in 28 years, Ahmed wept. But this was not the weeping of grief. This was something else. This was the weeping of a man whose entire world had just collapsed. This was the weeping of a man who realized that everything he had believed for nearly 3 decades was a lie. This was the weeping of a man who finally understood why his sister had looked so peaceful the day she walked out of their home. And as Ahmed knelt on that basement floor, surrounded by floating Bibles and frozen flames and light that seemed to come from another dimension, he heard the voice again. "Ahmed, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." It was not a demand. It was not a condemnation. It was an invitation that had been waiting for him for 28 years, an invitation his sister had prayed for with her dying breath. Ahmed looked up. The light was so bright he could barely see, but in that light, in that overwhelming, impossible light, he saw a figure with wounds in his hands, a figure with eyes full of more love than Ahmed had ever experienced in his entire life. And Ahmed did something he never thought he would do. He surrendered. "I am sorry," Ahmed whispered through his tears. "I am so sorry. For Fatima, for the hatred, for everything I have done, for every Christian I have hurt, for every Bible I have burned. I am." The figure moved closer, and Ahmed felt something he had never felt before. Peace, not the peace of success, not the peace of religious duty, not the peace of a life well lived, the peace that passes all understanding, the peace his sister had found, the peace he had been running from for 28 years. "Your sins are forgiven, Ahmed." The voice was gentle now, tender, like a father speaking to a long-lost son. "Your sister's prayers have been answered. Rise and follow me." Ahmed looked at the red Bible still in his hands. He opened it, and he saw something that made his breath catch in his throat. On the inside cover, written in faded blue ink, in handwriting he would recognize anywhere, a name, Fatima al-Rashid, and below it, a date, March 1991, and below that, a single sentence, "For my brother Ahmed, when Jesus finds you." This Bible, this red leather Bible, this was Fatima's Bible, the Bible she had received from the missionaries, the Bible she had read in secret, the Bible that had changed her life, the Bible that had been donated to the hospital, somehow and years ago, and had been sitting in that basement, waiting for this exact moment, waiting for this exact night, waiting for Ahmed. The realization hit him like a physical blow. This was not coincidence. This was not accident. This was a plan 28 years in the making. His sister's final gift. Ahmed did not know how long he knelt on that basement floor. It could have been minutes. It could have been hours. Time had lost all meaning. When he finally looked up, the light was fading. The Bibles had settled gently on the ground around him. The flames in the incinerator had extinguished completely, and he was alone. Dr. Hassan was gone. Dr. Omar was gone. Dr. Yusuf was gone. They had all fled, all except the Bibles, and one small piece of paper that had fallen from between the pages of Fatima's Bible. Ahmed picked it up. It was old, yellowed, worn. It was a page from a diary, Fatima's diary, and it contained words that would shape the rest of his life. The diary page read, March 15th, 1991. I had a dream last night. I dreamed that Ahmed was standing in a room full of fire. The fire was all around him, but it was not burning him, and in the middle of the fire there were Bibles, beautiful Bibles that glowed like gold. And in the dream, Jesus walked through the fire and took Ahmed's hand, and he said to me, I will find your brother, in a hospital, surrounded by fire. I will find him because you asked me to. I do not know what this dream means, but I believe it is true. I believe Jesus will find Ahmed, not today. Maybe not for many years, but he will find him, and when he does, my brother will finally have peace. I love you, Ahmed, and I will pray for you every day until that dream comes true. Your sister, Fatima. 28 years. Fatima had seen this night in a dream 28 years before it happened. A hospital, fire, Bibles that would not burn, Jesus finding Ahmed. Every detail, every single detail. Ahmed held that diary page against his chest and wept until he had no more tears left. His sister had never stopped praying for him. His sister had never stopped believing. His sister had seen this moment before she died. And now Ahmed understood. He understood why the Bibles would not burn. He understood why his hand had frozen. He understood why Fatima had looked so peaceful. He understood everything, and his life would never be the same. But what happened that night was only the beginning, because when Dr. Omar Mahmoud reported what he had witnessed to the hospital board, when the rumors started spreading through the Muslim community, when Ahmed's wife Layla found the red Bible hidden in his closet, when Imam Abdullah al-Rashid, Ahmed's own father, learned that his son had converted to Christianity, everything Ahmed had built over 47 years came crashing down. But that is a story for the next part of this testimony, a story of loss, of betrayal, of death threats from his own family, of a father who pronounced a fatwa against his own son, but also a story of redemption, of hope, of a 71-year-old pastor in Chicago who had a secret connection to Fatima that no one could have predicted, and a story of how the man who burned Bibles became the man who now saves lives in a completely different way. 3 weeks after the incident in the basement, Ahmed made a decision. He could not pretend anymore. He could not go back to his old life. He could not look at his wife and children and continue living a lie. He had met Jesus in that basement, and nothing could undo that. But how do you tell your family? How do you tell a wife of 25 years that everything she believed about you has changed? How do you tell children raised in devout Islam that their father now follows a different path? How do you tell a father who is an imam, a father who disowned his own daughter for this same reason, that his son has made the same choice? Ahmed struggled with these questions for weeks. He read Fatima's Bible in secret. He prayed in closets and bathrooms and parked cars. He wept every night, and he remembered what the voice had told him in that basement. Rise and follow me. In January 2020, Ahmed sought out a church. He could not go to a traditional church. Too many people might recognize him. Too many questions. Instead, he found a small congregation that met in a community center on the south side of Chicago, a Spanish-speaking church, a place where no one from his world would ever think to look. The church was led by an elderly pastor named Michael Torres. Pastor Torres was 71 years old. He had been in ministry for over 50 years. He had baptized hundreds of people, and when Ahmed walked through the door of that community center, when he told Pastor Torres his story, something remarkable happened. Pastor Torres began to cry. Ahmed, the old pastor said, his voice trembling. "What was your sister's name?" "Fatima. Fatima al-Rashid." Pastor Torres sat down heavily in a chair. He looked like he had seen a ghost. "I knew her," he said finally. "I baptized her." The world stopped. Ahmed could not speak. "What? What did you say?" Pastor Torres looked up at him with tears streaming down his weathered face. "In 1991, he said slowly, "I was part of a medical mission team. We went to Saudi Arabia. We ran a clinic in Riyadh, and there was a girl. A young girl with bright eyes and so many questions." "Fatima," Ahmed whispered. "Yes, Fatima. I baptized her in secret, in the middle of the night, in a bathtub, in a rented apartment. It was one of the most beautiful moments of my life, and she told me something that night, something I have never forgotten." Pastor Torres wiped his eyes. She said, "One day, my brother will come to you. Jesus showed me in a dream. He will come to you and you will help him just like you helped me." Ahmed's knees buckled. He grabbed the back of a chair to keep from falling. 28 years. This pastor had waited 28 years. Just like the prayer, just like the dream, just like the Bibles that would not burn. Pastor Torres baptized Ahmed on February 2nd, 2020, in a bathtub, just like he had baptized Fatima. And as Ahmed rose from the water, he finally understood what his recurring dreams had meant. For years, for decades. Ahmed had dreamed of blue water, clear, peaceful, beautiful blue water. He never understood why. Now he knew. The water was his baptism. His sister had prayed for it. His God had promised it. And finally, it had happened. When Ahmed emerged from that bathtub, he chose a new name. David, like the shepherd boy who killed the giant, because Ahmed had killed the giant in his own heart. 28 years of hatred, 28 years of anger, 28 years of running, all of it. Dead, drowned in baptismal waters, and a new man rose in its place. But if Ahmed thought his troubles were over, he was terribly wrong, because someone had seen him enter that church. Someone had followed him, someone had taken photos, and within days, those photos were everywhere. The Muslim community in Chicago knew, his colleagues at the hospital knew, his wife knew, his children knew, and worst of all, his father knew. Layla confronted him on a Tuesday evening. Ahmed came home from work to find her sitting in the living room. The children were not there. Layla was holding a photograph of Ahmed entering the church. "Is it true?" she asked. Her voice was flat, cold, like she was speaking to a stranger. Ahmed could have lied. He could have said it was a misunderstanding. He could have denied everything. But he thought of Fatima. He thought of how she had stood in their father's office and told the truth, knowing what it would cost her. He thought of the voice in the basement, "Rise and follow me." "Yes," Ahmed said quietly, "it is true." What happened next destroyed him, not physically, spiritually, emotionally. Layla did not scream. She did not cry. She simply stood up, walked to their bedroom and began packing. Within an hour she was gone. She took the children, Karim, 22, who had always looked at Ahmed with such admiration, Aisha, 19, whose graduation Ahmed was supposed to attend in the spring, Omar, 16, the youngest, the one who reminded Ahmed most of himself at that age. They left without saying goodbye. They left like Fatima had left 28 years ago. Except this time Ahmed was not the one watching someone walk away. He was the one being left behind. The phone call from his father came 3 days later. Ahmed almost did not answer, but something made him pick up. His father's voice was different than he had ever heard it. Cold, final, like reading from a legal document. "Ahmed Khalil al-Rashid," Imam Abdullah began, "you have committed apostasy. You have betrayed Allah, the Prophet, peace be upon him, and your entire family. You have brought shame upon 6 generations of scholars. As Imam and as your father, I am required by sacred duty to pronounce this." Ahmed gripped the phone so hard his knuckles turned white. "I hereby issue a fatwa against my son." He is no longer part of this family. He is no longer protected. He is murtad, an apostate, and the penalty for apostasy. The line went silent for a moment. Then his father said 6 words that would echo in Ahmed's mind forever. The penalty for apostasy is death. Click. The phone went dead. Ahmed sat in his empty house. His wife was gone. His children were gone. His father had just called for his death. Everything he had spent 47 years building, his career, his family, his reputation, his wealth, all of it was crumbling around him. He should have been devastated. He should have been terrified. He should have questioned his choice, but instead he felt something unexpected. Peace. The same peace he had felt in that basement. The same peace he had seen on Fatima's face. The peace that passes all understanding. Because Ahmed finally understood what his sister had known all along. Following Jesus was never about gaining things. It was about gaining him and losing everything else. If it meant finding Jesus, that was worth it. The death threats started arriving within a week. Letters, emails, messages on social media. You are a traitor to your blood. Apostate dogs deserve slaughter. We know where you live. Ahmed reported everything to the police. They took notes. They said they would patrol his neighborhood. But Ahmed knew the truth. He was not safe. He might never be safe again. And yet, he did not run. He did not hide. He continued working at the hospital. He continued going to church. He continued reading his sister's Bible every single night. And he began doing something he never thought he would do. He started telling his story. At first, it was just Pastor Torres's small congregation. Ahmed stood up one Sunday and shared his testimony. The night in the basement, the Bibles that would not burn, the vision of Fatima, the voice of Jesus. People wept, people prayed, people shared his story with others, and slowly, word began to spread. A Muslim surgeon had converted to Christianity, not just any surgeon, the chief of cardiovascular surgery at Chicago Metropolitan Hospital, a man whose father was a famous imam, a man whose life was now in danger because of his faith. Within months, the hospital board asked for Ahmed's resignation. They said it was for his own safety. They said the controversy was affecting the hospital's reputation. They said it would be better for everyone if he just went away. Ahmed handed in his badge. He walked out of that hospital for the last time, the same hospital where he had burned Bibles, the same hospital where he had met Jesus, the same hospital that his sister had seen in her dream. As he crossed the parking lot, Ahmed looked up at the building. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for finding me." And then he walked away, toward an uncertain future, toward danger and poverty and rejection, toward the life of a man who had lost everything, except the only thing that truly mattered. It has been 5 years since that night in the basement, 5 years since the Bibles that would not burn, 5 years since Ahmed met Jesus in fire and light, and the man who once hated Christians, the man who once wanted to destroy every Bible in existence. That man no longer exists. In his place is David al-Rashid, founder of Hope for the Crescent Ministries, a ministry dedicated to helping ex-Muslims find safety, community, and faith. A ministry that has helped over 300 people escape dangerous situations. A ministry that exists because a 16-year-old girl prayed for her brother 28 years before her prayers were answered. David still has the scar on his left wrist. He shows it to everyone who asks. "This is where I tried to destroy my first Bible," he tells them, "and the Bible burned me instead. It took 28 years, but God used that scar to remind me. Every time I looked at it, I remembered. And now I understand." God was waiting. He was waiting for the right moment. He was waiting for 47 Bibles in a hospital basement. He was waiting to answer my sister's prayers. Not everyone from that night found healing. Dr. Omar Mahmoud refuses to speak to David. He still sends threatening messages from time to time. Dr. Tariq and Dr. Kareem left medicine entirely. No one knows where they are, but Dr. Hassan al-Farouk, Ahmed's best friend, the man whose wife had prayed for him for 20 years, Hassan reached out 6 months after the incident. His message was short. I cannot stop thinking about what we saw. Maria says, Jesus has been calling me. I think she is right. Can we talk? Hassan was baptized in the summer of 2021 by Pastor Torres, in the same bathtub where Fatima was baptized, where David was baptized. 3 lives connected across decades by the same prayers, the same pastor, the same water. And Dr. Yusuf Ibrahim, the quiet surgeon who had walked toward the light that night. Yusuf revealed his secret after the incident. He had been a Christian for 15 years. He had converted in medical school after a professor gave him a Bible. He had worked in that hospital for a decade, praying for opportunities to share his faith, terrified of being discovered. When Ahmed invited him to burn Bibles, Yusuf almost said no, but something told him to go. Something told him that God was about to do something extraordinary. And he was right. Yusuf now works alongside David at Hope for the Crescent Ministries. 2 surgeons, one who burned Bibles, one who protected them, both saved by the same God. There is one more thing you need to know about David's family. For 4 years, none of them would speak to him. Layla filed for divorce. She kept the house, the cars, everything. Karim and Aisha changed their phone numbers. Imam Abdullah has not spoken his son's name since the fatwa. But Omar, the youngest son, 16 years old when David converted. Omar reached out in 2024, a single text message. Dad, can we meet? They met at a coffee shop in Chicago. Omar did not convert, not yet. But he listened. He listened to his father's story. He listened to the story of Fatima. He listened to the story of the basement and the Bibles and the light. And when they parted, Omar said something that gave David hope. I do not understand yet, but I am not afraid of you anymore, and I want to understand. It is not a conversion, but it is a beginning. And God is patient. God waited 28 years for David. He can wait a little longer for Omar. If you have watched this testimony until now, if you have heard the story of a man who hated Christians and became one, if you have witnessed how prayers offered in 1991 were answered in 2019, then I want to ask you something. You have just heard how Bibles that should have burned refused to be destroyed, how a surgeon who tried to destroy God's word was transformed by it instead. Stories like this take time and resources to share. When you click Super Thanks, you are not just supporting a channel. You are helping spread testimonies that can change lives. You are saying, this story matters. Every contribution helps bring more stories of divine transformation to the world. And now one final thought. Maybe you are watching this and you are like Ahmed was, running from something, hiding from someone, pretending that the questions inside you do not exist. Maybe someone has been praying for you, a mother, a father, a sister, a friend. Maybe they have been praying for years. Maybe they have been praying for decades. And maybe, just maybe, tonight is the night God has been waiting for, not because you are ready. Ahmed was not ready, not because you deserve it. None of us deserve it, but because God keeps his promises. And if someone is praying for you, he will find you in a hospital, in a basement, in fire that does not burn. He will find you, because that is who he is. That is what he does, and his love. His relentless, unstoppable 28 years in the making love. That love changes everything. David al-Rashid, formerly known as Dr. Ahmed Khalil al-Rashid, still leads Hope for the Crescent Ministries in Chicago. If you or someone you know is struggling with questions about faith, if you are a former Muslim seeking community, or if you simply want to know more about the God who refuses to let his word be destroyed, the information is in the description below. And if this story touched your heart, if you felt something while watching this, something you cannot quite explain, maybe that is your sign. Maybe someone has been praying for you too. And maybe, tonight, the Bibles are refusing to burn for you. Type Jesus Saves in the comments if this testimony touched your heart. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, God's word cannot be destroyed, God's promises cannot be broken, and God's love changes everything. Until next time, may his light find you in the fire.